My name is Nadia Harris, if you haven't met me yet, and it's an immense pleasure to be the moderator on this second stage and the second part of today. We also have tons of stuff prepared tomorrow. I just would like to remind you that you have access to the Slido app, and this means that there you can ask questions. When the speech ends, like towards the end, I come back on stage and I ask these questions. So, and if you obviously have anything personal, feel free to approach the speakers behind the scenes. So now a topic that is really important, because I think that many of us, myself as well, I've been a freelancer for a long time and I learned it the hard way, right? We sometimes used to struggle how to position ourselves properly. And there is no magic formula, but you can approach it from a process perspective, and I think it's going to be super interesting today to listen to someone who has, well, I wouldn't say that obvious experience in terms of the speech today, because she's someone who worked 20 years in the events industry. Okay, you would say events industry, like how does that connect? But 10 years as a freelancer as well. Today's topic is rock solid positioning, a simple framework for freelance success. Elina Jutelyte, welcome on stage.
Thank you, Nadia. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Folks, do you know what value-based proposal is? Do you know? Well, that's proposal where you put value-based pricing in it. And normally it's 10 times more expensive than you normally would charge for your typical work. So I read somewhere on the internet that this is what advanced freelancers normally do in order to grow your business. So I thought, well, you know, I'm in my business 20 years, 10 years as a solo. It's time for me to switch to value-based proposals. And so I come to my customer and say, hey, customer, listen up. I'm going to send you value-based proposal. How about that? A customer goes, I have no clue what you talk about. Okay, let's try. So I'm very proud. I send a proposal. A customer looks at it. The eyes like this. Like, Elina, what is that exactly? And the next thing he asks, how many hours in it? And I'm like, damn it. I'm going to switch from hours to value-based. Don't you see the value that I put in the proposal? Don't you see the value that I'm going to bring to a company? And then, of course, we started discussing, and he wanted to go into details, what exactly this involves. And I told him that I normally work with the team, so I'm going to hire people to reach the goals that he envisioned. And from that point, he's like, okay, let's hire those people together. So he hires people and doesn't confirm my proposal. I cried in a pillow. So I lost the customer. I cried in a pillow for a while. Then I cried to a business coach. And a business coach asked me a few questions. And then he said, well, Elina, you're trying to position yourself as a consultant. But what you described is not really being a consultant. So he technically said, Elina, you're not a consultant. So I cried again. And I became desperate to trying to figure out what makes the difference between me being perceived as a consultant and between what customer really thinks about me. And I discovered there's a huge gap, the way we position ourselves and the way customer sees us. So I spent almost several years looking and thinking, and like Nadia said, I'm running a community. Did she say that? Yes, I ran a community of freelancers for 8 years. So I spoke with an enormous amount of people, trying to figure out what really shapes your positioning. So in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through what positioning really is and why we're so bloody confused. Why all this positioning advice doesn't work for most of us. Almost everyone, it doesn't work. Then I'll explain what are the elements that's shaping perception for your clients. And then I'll provide quick fixes at the end. Now, little disclaimer, positioning is not a quick fix. It's a long-term strategy, but there are some things I'll share that you can do already this week. I'll start with a questioning. I do want to ask you, what is positioning for you? Just shout. What is positioning for you? Just shout. Be known for specific. Okay, smart people here. What else? All right. Okay, perfect. Fantastic. Yeah, all that, but none of that at the same time. Suspense is growing. So let me guide you through historical evolution of positioning. So there was a guy called Al Rees who was running an advertisement agency in New York. New York, busy streets, advertisement all over, Times Square, like blah, blah, blah. So he has done all that for huge brands for many, many years. And at some point of time, he realized that advertisement doesn't work anymore for brands. There is no response anymore. And he said something revolutionary at that time. He said that brands need to have a rock in order to differentiate, in order to stand out from others in the same category. Now, imagine saying that in the audience full of creatives. It didn't pass, of course. Like, what sort of rock you're talking about? Now, it took him almost 12 years until his papers being published. So in 1972, his paper was published and he was hammered because he said, listen, folks, creativity is no longer enough. And of course, all those creative people like, are you crazy? What? We've been creating art all this time and it worked. But it didn't work for him and for his brands. Because, he said, there is too much noise out there in 1972. I can't imagine what he would say today. What bloody noise we have created with marketing. Everyone is noisy. Everyone is noisy talking about something. And let's look at ads, how they look like. 1950, what we see. What we see. We see cars and cigarettes for men. Kitchen appliances and cooking for women. Thanks a lot. So it's all about product. Look how beautiful, the functions, so many boxes can fit in the car. Look, everyone needs that car right now, right? It was all about product and it didn't fly anymore. 1990? What do we see here? I forgot. Wait. Customer. Customer isn't here. So brands realize they need to show customer to the customer so that they make a link. Oh, this is actually for me. And you see the different customers in the pictures. Now moving forward, someone shouted already, ads nowadays appealing to emotions, values, stories, feelings. Quite right, emotion, mostly in a video form. So brands have spent decades, billions, trying to figure out how to persuade customer into buying something that they produce. And right now, they're appealing not so much about the product and the customer, but to their emotions. And so, Already said, positioning is what we do to the mind of the prospect. And perception is being formed, a little bit of neuroscience right now, by PIM. Now, if you're software world, it's not that PIM, it's a different one. It's prediction, what people expect from you. It's emotion, what they will feel in contact with you. Attention, what they will notice about you. And what they will remember. But that's not the framework. That's only how perception is being formed. That brings us to the problem. And the problem is that most positioning advice has been crafted for companies. If you followed my webinar I did a month ago for Freelance Unlocked, I explained this, I showed this frameworks from corporates. One is for pharma, another one for SaaS. If we would try to apply them to independent business, it wouldn't work, just simply because it's just nonsense for us. And therefore, positioning advice is incomplete. What we mostly see and hear is find a niche, right? We heard that. Find an ideal customer. Yes, we all do that. And then craft an appealing message. Because if you talk to your customer, you'll be recognized for something that you do. And I just copied some screenshots from LinkedIn, just preparing for this talk. And if you read it through, it's not positioning exercise, it's copywriting. Agree? It's how you write about yourself has nothing to do with positioning, maybe a little, but not completely. And most of the time, positioning feels like limitation. And I say that because I know I speak with so many freelancers where they've been in a niche and they still tell me, Elina, so how do I niche? But you're already in a niche. It doesn't work for you because you haven't done the rest of what positioning involves. Let's look at it. So why are these people more successful? You know them? Dan Koo, Marley Forleo, Justin Welch, Chris Du, Amy Portfeld, Jonathan Stark, Jake Klaus, Nashin Chen, maybe you know some of them, maybe not. They're all highly recognized in the things they do. Well, because they have a rock. They have figured out how positioning really works. Consciously or unconsciously, they have built a system that is underneath, that is supporting them as solopreneurs. So if we imagine positioning as iceberg, another rock, but just cold, what we technically see and hear most of the time is the tip of the iceberg, what I just mentioned. Find your product. By product, by the way, I mean service in our case. Or maybe you have a digital product as well, I don't know. And finding your ideal customer, people. But what influences positioning is all the rest that's underneath. What's underwater, what we don't see, what we have to work on. And again, I did a webinar explaining all of those in details. Right now, I'm not going into details right here, but you can find the webinar on a Freelancer Unlock page if you're interested. So it's place, promotion, physical evidence, process, performance, and price. I call it 8 P's of freelance business because this is the system I've developed after having that unsuccessful case of trying to sell my value to the customer. So what these people do differently, I'm going to link now what they do differently with this 8 P's that I just showed a second ago. First, they sell transformation. And I'm sure you heard that before, but how many people actually unsuccessful defining transformation for a customer? And that is mostly because we are not uncovering the pains of our customer. We're not uncovering the pains of our customer because we're not having enough conversation. That's the missing block. The more conversation you have, specific conversation about the pains of the business of your customer, the more you can craft transformation for them. Second, all those people strategically build network. And I don't say you need to necessarily be friends with Toby Robbins. Is that how you say his name? I can't even, because he's giving me a headache. I'm like, okay, I'll just ignore. Porter Gale said, your network is your net worth. And that's truly so. And building a network, you're all here. This is fantastic. But are you strategically building network by connecting people with people that will elevate your business? And you know, probably you read about it, like you are in a certain circle, but if you want to earn more, you have to really go beyond and start connecting with people who are earning more than you, and so that kind of spiraling yourself up. That's what all those people do. Next to that, they are in the right places, they are in the right rooms. This is Wing Yang, and I want to bring his case because I met him 7 years ago. And he is absolutely, absolutely phenomenal keynote speaker, communication coach. He's one of the best. Really Google him, you would fall in love, I guarantee. He transitioned from being a magician into keynote speaker, demanding lots and lots of money, now into communication field, teaching millions how to perform better on stage. I met him 7 years ago when he had 3,000 followers on Instagram. Right now, he has 10 million. Across social media. So definitely there's something he's doing right. And he's doing right, being in the right room, because I met him at a conference for event planners. So he technically was going to the room full of his customers, presenting, and then they would hire him for their stages as well. All of them have personal brand. And honestly, when someone says, you have to build your personal brand, I cringe, because like, what do you mean exactly? And that's the reason why it's black. You only can build personal brand when you know who you help and the outcomes you deliver for them. So the transformation that you provide. Without that, it's impossible to build any personal brand. You probably know that already. They all show trust signals. And I like actually watch who they feature on their pages. Honestly, do the exercise. Go to all of those influencers and see who they feature on the testimonials. It's going to be people who are either earning the same or more and highly recognized. So they're supporting the business with others who already reached certain level of success. Isn't it smart? Can you do that the same? Can you identify key influentials in your business that will recommend your work? Obviously, you need to do something for them for that. Quality. The all briefing quality. Stephen Bartlett, you probably know him, Diary of CEOs, posted this on LinkedIn the other day. I screenshot it because this is so true. Whenever you come across in contact with those people, it's all about quality. That's why I actually cringe when I see folks on LinkedIn saying, oh, I had some work to do, but you know what? I go for a walk. That is not quality to my perspective. 7P is developing your own IP, and this is a massive one. The moment you switch into creating your own IP, you evaluating yourself like 100%. All of them wrote a book. I don't say you have to write a book in a week, but think in terms of what sort of frameworks you can develop, what sort of things you can provide to a customer that would identify yourself and differentiate yourself from the rest who is doing similar work. Is there something that you can maybe patent even? In my line of work, for instance, I'm an event ROI certified expert. That's been done by an institute that does not exist anymore. So I can push that framework towards my customers. I can do workshops for them, and I say, hey, I have that. I have certificate. I know this. I know my shit. Or I can also apply that in my consultancy. The framework I'm showing right now, I'm writing the book about it. So this is my IP in the making. And all of them demanding premium price, as I showed earlier. Could they demand a premium price without doing what I've just showed before? No, out of the blue, they couldn't say, hey, 10K for keynote. Who's going to believe that? 76% of freelancers are doubting about the prices, right? Are you doubting? Yeah, I know it. We did the research. We asked freelancers. 76% said, yeah, we're doubting. For me, the pricing issue is not a pricing problem. It's a positioning problem. Because, and that is the framework in action, if I would have a couple of more hours, yes, take a picture. If I would have more couple of hours, I would explain it in more detail, but I did it in a webinar. All the systems, all the elements of the framework are interlinked. As a matter of fact, I do workshops where we do matrix 8 by 8, and then we see dependencies, how product is influencing people, how people influencing product, how place is influencing people, and people influencing place. You can't take one out of the equation. They work all together. And all what's underwater is what's being ignored or not being worked out strategically. People focusing on product and the customer, and the rest, by luck. And this is what happens. Most of the freelancers are here. They're competing on price because all the rest, they don't pay attention, right? How many times you ask, can we discuss your price? Like in my situation, I would never even have that discussion with the customer. He would never ask about my hours. And you know why? Because he wouldn't be even my customer in the first place. He wasn't the customer for value-based proposition in the first place. If I would knew that before, I would be more strategic in terms of who I approach, how I show my value, do I show the quality of my work, who can back me up, confirming I have that quality. Can I showcase my frameworks and the certification that I have more prominently so people say, yeah, she knows it. And also, if you watch the webinar, if you're interested, I have explained also how these elements influencing and developing your passion, what are the business drivers, and how they're influencing your profitability. It's all very connected. If we take one element once again out of the equation, let's say, which one we want to take out? Physical evidence, for example. Physical evidence is out. Can this flywheel move? It will be stuck because you don't have evidence of your good work. And quick fixes, as I promised. And once again, disclaimer, positioning is not a quick fix, it's strategic work. You have to really be careful how you do that. Not careful really, but regular in what you improving your positioning. But here, things you can do. So when I discovered that I really miss out on that positioning, I wanted to develop a tool that would tell me where my gaps are. So I developed assessment where we go through all the 8 Ps with lots and lots of questions, precisely assessing where you are in your journey. And that gives the scorecard, similar to this. So that is my situation a couple of years ago where I was simulating the situation with my customer, and that clearly says that my physical evidence is just nowhere. I really didn't have any physical evidence of my cool work that I did for customers. What else? The place also wasn't quite correct because, like I mentioned, the customer wasn't ideal for that type of scenario. So that is available now in Freelance Business Academy if you're interested. The next thing you can do, if you don't want to do assessment, forget it, just make project audit. And that's the most powerful exercise, actually. Whenever I mention that to customers, freelancers, they're like, oh, really, that's cool. So list all your projects and mention service you delivered, client industry, client persona, how much you were paid, how they found you, what you like, what did not like, and then decide how you're going to group, how you're going to, what you're looking for. Is it financial compensation? Do you want to have higher paid projects? Or is it more like you're looking enjoyment in your work or maybe something else? And try to find the patterns. And once you have identified the patterns, craft that offer for that client that was in that pattern, keeping that in mind. Craft that offer and make yourself a goal, reaching out to 25 people identical to that ideal customer that was in the pattern, to reach out with your offer, not to sell, to validate. And sometimes people say, 25 people? I don't have that many family members. Yeah. Oh, that's the time to move beyond your family members. And this is how you do validation. You can screenshot it and ask this question. Why is this important? And I probably bet a lot of you are not doing that. It is collecting market intelligence. It is by talking to people, you figure out what they're missing and how can you adjust your offer that you just created. It will be stupid if you just go and sell it immediately. You need to make sure that it's going to fly with people, that they will accept this. So you learn about how they solve this problem, what they have tried before, how much they paid, especially on how much you paid, because I'll tell about later. Physical evidence. Physical evidence, if you don't have any, create at least one case study. Now you have identified the ideal customer and the work that you did for that customer. Take that case study and write it yourself. What you did, what was the problem, what you did, what was the result. You don't even need to validate with the customer, just have it available for the first. And then second thing, I always recommend run a social proof database. I think Vanessa was speaking recently and she said she had a file of all the testimonials and feedback. This is a cool thing. Run it, save it, and you have constant access to that. Justin Welsh said that he does the same, and whenever he has a difficult conversation, he opens it up, rereads it, and he has validation to his value instantly. Then quality check is something that you have to do, and you have to start immediately. There's a big problem for freelancers. We think we're running great business, great service, but we never actually check. And there are 9, I think here we have 9 different ways that we can collect feedback. You don't need to do 9, you just have to pick one, and you have to incorporate this in your process. And it goes normally like this. You open up a conversation with the customer, the contract is signed, and you say, okay, customer, here's how we're going to work. I do this and this and this, and 3 months, we have feedback check. I send you a survey, or we jump on a call, and I'm going to ask you specific questions. You already say it up front, so they know it, they expect it. All what you need to do is just execute it. If you haven't done it, just screenshot this quick email that you can send to your past customers and saying, hey, I'm just refining my business. Can I get a little feedback from how it was working with me? You can also propose do it anonymously if you want. But that's a great place to start. And price, returning to that one. 3 things you need to do to start working on your price as part of the system. On your market intelligence, so benchmarks that you download online is not what you need. Market intelligence comes from your customers. I gained my market intelligence in my business because I worked in an agency. I knew how much customers were paying agency. So when I was coming out in the market, I knew that I can beat those prices and provide better quality. You have to do the same. Asking other freelancers how much they charge, not always a great place because it's so different, but customer will indicate that for you. And secondly, I recommend running Value Impact Bank. It's your database of all the problems you identify for the customer and why it matters for them, why they need to solve it, and if they don't solve it, what's going to happen to the business. And you have to appeal to those things in your proposals. And then price belongs to financial plan. It's not a guessing, it's a number. So obviously, always calculate how much that should be costing you. And voila, this is positioning, folks. It's 8 Ps working together. It's a flywheel. All things are connected. If you remove one, you are not optimizing your positioning. You still can run a business, no problem. We all do that all these years, but it's just not going to be the most efficient way where customers would not have questions anymore. Like if I would knew that a couple of years back when I, like I mentioned, came out with the send proposal for the value-based pricing, the customer would react differently. And thank you. This is one more thing you can do. You can download a gap analyzer. It's not a full assessment, but it has about 20 questions that will guide your thinking through your positioning. What are the things you're missing? And once you go through those questions, answer them yourself and see where you're hesitating, where things maybe could be improved, or maybe something that is lacking still in your positioning. And so that's a great place to start. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Elina. We have one very practical question for you. I asked that question to myself too a while ago. So, now I lost it. 1 second, because this is not refreshing. Anyway, I remember what the question was about. If because of an NDA, you can't list the name of your client or any details, what are you supposed to do to still show some exposure and expertise?
But of course, you don't need to mention the customer name. You can even modify the industry, but just keep the essence of it. Right?
Okay. Any other questions from the audience?
Did I answer? Or was it hilarious? So yeah, I know what you mean. Probably like you can't really disclose the nature of the work, but can you say it without disclosing? Can you? Like we can say many things without disclosing, right? How can you trust it? Yeah. Yeah. You can put disclaimer that it's NDA protected, but you can explain. Can you explain the problem? Is it NDA protected also? No, you can explain the problem. You can explain what approach was. Maybe you don't need to give too many details, but just show the essence of the work. Which, yeah, it's still a proof. Yeah, It's better to have something than nothing. So it's up to you. You can say, I cannot prove it. I'm not going to publish it, or you publish it still as a case study. And at least there is some body to your work. Yeah.
See, I told you I would give you the microphone, please.
I'm not good at these microphones. My question was, if you only took clients that were willing to let you mention the work in a reasonable way, but mention the name and mention the essential process and the outcome, how much business would you actually lose? I have not done this analysis, but many years ago, we had a policy that said, if you can't let us talk about it, we've lost half the value of the work. And what we found is that many clients were willing to actually let us say something about it and let them mention them in a reasonable way. So that's my question. What's been your experience?
No idea. I don't sign NDAs in the first place, well, because my line of work is different. But from corporate experience that I had, I know that we were validating case studies with customers. And sometimes there is sensitive information. And then you just work together with the customer. Okay, what can we say? Because this is important for us. We need it. And for instance, there is agreement, price-wise or whatever. They participate in a case study. And you just work together. What can we share about this work? It's just, I think, finding this consensus between.
Yeah. I mean, I can also share a little bit from my experience, if that helps, respond to the question. And it's just like you said, I don't think you really have to disclose. I mean, you really have to disclose the name of the business and the individual on the website. That's what they don't want. So I would approach it, and I probably would go back to everything that we've learned from you today, to the positioning and showing that you are the expert. It's not that some company work with you and they say so, because it's you who is the first voice. You're positioned the right way, right? I think that's the most important thing. And secondly, you could describe a case study. You could describe how you've, solved the problem. And this is so credible and speaks to this individual. Plus, and also, I think that's what you've mentioned also, you don't sign these, and obviously, I mean, many wouldn't. But if there is the case, maybe confidentially a client would agree and would say, okay, don't showcase me anywhere. I don't agree to do that. But maybe someone can make a phone call where we won't disclose the nature of the business that we made together, but maybe I can just, say that you did well, maybe something like that behind the scenes, right? Would that be a good solution in your eyes?
And I just, thinking as we're talking about it, there could be a way also that if you're in control of your processes, you start from negotiating and you need to have that case study, it's a great brand or it's going to be great projects. And at the end of the day, you want to talk about it. So you start discussing, okay, this is my intention. I want to do that. You're asking in the A, but can we define something that could be usable for me in the future? And maybe it's a question also of, okay, what's the price for it? Or what's the whatever? I don't know. I just remember I said I don't sign NDA. I lied. I did sign one because it was via, and I knew it was a kind of sensitive matter that we were discussing. But still, from that NDA assignment, I could create my work description. This is what I did, without sharing details of the customer, without sharing details what they did, but just my piece of work there. And I know in some cases, like in software, I know you want to disclose, for instance, what you do, or in strategy work, which field you are actually. Bishop. Yeah. No, both. Yeah. Yeah. In that case, I would recommend, okay, just try to focus on the pain that you uncovered and how you solve it without mentioning details around it. And, if there are questions, you can maybe do it on a call.
All right. Okay. That's been really... Oh, one more. Sorry. We don't want to skip you. Please.
So my question is, if you want to currently test out multiple positions, would it be potentially harmful to test them out simultaneously, or what would be your approach?
I find it difficult because it takes time and focus. I would give it some time. You have something running, you validate it, you give it, let's say, 3-4 months, and then you switch. If you're able, and capacity-wise and time-wise, do 2 different instantly, I just can't imagine how can you do that. It's going to be such a contradicting messages. Unless you choose platforms, and unless you choose platforms strategically. Let's say, let's pick Instagram. I'm going to feature myself on Instagram like this. Or on LinkedIn, I'm going to feature myself like this. And then you try to tap in different categories. Also, depending who your customer is. If there's a different customers, then it's no problem. What I see quite frequently, and also that actually something that breaks trust, is you look, like I said, I'm hiring people for projects, and I look at their LinkedIn profile, they say something. You look at resume, it says different thing. You go on the website, it's a third thing. I'm like, does he know what he's doing? Like, instantly breaks the trust. You just don't continue looking at that person anymore, somehow.
Tons of questions, I'm sure, are now popping up in your head. We don't have more time at that stage, but I do see some hands up. Please feel free to approach Elina afterwards. I'm sure she's going to share insights. Thank you so much.